WPSC-FM 88.7, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Paterson Broadcast Network. Brave New Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Paterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Good morning. Good morning to you, and this is your host, Marc Medley, coming to you live once again from WP 88.7 FM and GoBrave.org. And as I sit there and I listen to the introductory music, sometimes I just can't believe that's me playing. And I'll sit back and listen and just listen over and over again and say, wow, I don't remember putting that in there. And I just get excited all over again. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, the music you're listening to is from my original CD, The Wrinkled Rag. And that is the title track, The Wrinkled Rag. So as I sit there and I let the music come up, I get excited just knowing it's another Saturday morning, another opportunity to share with you on the Reading Circle with Marc Medley, heard live here on each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. And then we follow up with the good news and song in the M&M hour and in the Martha and Friends hour at 8 o'clock. Everything is in place. The equipment is up and running. My guest is on the line, so I'm going to introduce her momentarily. But any of you who've been listening to the show or listening to the show for any amount of time, you know we have a ritual and a routine that we follow. And I follow that routine for the most part religiously. And we're going to do that this morning, and that is I'm going to give you the weather. We're going to read from our two books, What Can Happen When We Pray, and from the book Until Today. And then I'll introduce my guests. We'll go on into a public service announcement where I'll share some information with you. And then our interview will be, as the kids can say, on and popping. And I don't even know if that's what they still say because they change up what they say so many times. But I know at one point they used to say it's on and popping, so it will be just that. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share the weather with you, what's going on in the Wayne, New Jersey area. As I've been sharing with you the last few weeks, I always start off with baby, it's cold outside, and it has not changed for this morning either. Baby, it's cold outside as it is 21 degrees. Expected today to be generally cloudy, high of 35 with a low of 28. Generally cloudy. It's going to have some cloudy skies again tonight, light variable winds, and as we roll on into Sunday tomorrow, it will be cloudy as well with occasional showers for the afternoon, high of 39, low of 26. Expect some periods of mixed winter precipitation. Matter of fact, there's an 80% chance of that precipitation. Looks like we're going to have about an inch or so of snow and ice expected. And then we move on into the work week on Monday. A wintry mix in the morning will transition to mainly snow in the afternoon. High of 31, a low of 24. Snow showers will become widely scattered later on in the afternoon. Again, dropping from 80% during the day to 60% during Monday night in terms of snow, precipitation, rain. Tuesday, some clouds in the morning will give way to mainly sunny skies for the afternoon, high near 35. Tuesday night, clearing up, low of 14. And then Wednesday, rounding out the forecast, except for a few afternoon clouds, mainly sunny, high of 34. And then Wednesday night, overcast, low of 23. So you can see we're bopping between the 30s and the 20s. 30s during the day, 20s during the evening. Either way, you need to wrap up so that you can keep yourself warm. Now, for those of you who like the cold weather, well, then maybe you don't have to put on too much. But for those of us who are like me, I like to keep warm, so I will have the hat, the scarves, the gloves, and everything else that I need to have on to keep me warm. Well, that's it for the weather, brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. And as I said, we are going to read from our two selections. From the book, What Can Happen When We Pray, for today, February the 7th, Choosing Life. Today's prayer: in the midst of chaos and confusion, dearest Lord, have mercy on me, even as I look upon my circumstances and surroundings. Let me know that you are near. Give me comfort and help me to be a comfort to others. Now that's speaking to me this morning. I don't know about you, but that is definitely speaking to me. Today's reflection: David knew what side his bread was buttered on. He had flaws, true, and his personal choices often got him in hot water. But he knew that the best part of him came through when he relied on God. David knew that calling on God was always the right choice. Life can be unbearable at times. Add to this our inability to lead perfect lives, and what is unbearable becomes unlivable. A friend once remarked that when she and her brothers were young, they would get into trouble for their childish pranks. Their mother would admonish them with the words, quote, "You better choose life," unquote. What she gave them was a choice. Sometimes between a spanking and straightening up their act, it was usually an easy choice, the friend remembers. God brings life to us daily. Choosing life is what God asks of us. With our choice comes God's protection of love, essential in our quest to make it through each day. I like that. You better choose life. I think I'm going to use that with my students next week. When they get out of hand, I think I'm going to have to tell them, look now, you better choose life. From the book, What Can Happen, or rather, shall I say, Until Today. That was from the book, What Can Happen When We Pray. From the book, Until Today, by Iyanla Van Zant, for the 7th of February, she says, I will know love when I realize the world as I know it begins and ends with love. Books have been written about it. Many have dreams about it. Some chase it. Others find it. At some point in our lives, we all experience what we believe is the loss of it. When it's gone, we want some more. We have some basic ideas and beliefs about what it is or what it should be, and we know what we believe is right. When, however, what we believe doesn't quite work, we change our minds, find a new approach, write more books, and head off down the new paths we create. We change, but it does not. Love never changes. It remains constant and available in our unlimited supply. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the face of a newborn baby, pure, innocent, defenseless, and at rest. That is love. Imagine the touch, the smell, the embrace, the sight of a face, or a place that has warmed your heart, brought a smile to your face, and caused all of your fears and worries to vanish. That's love. What color is it? What is the sound of it? Imagine yourself surrounded by it, embraced and protected by it, free from all harm from just a moment. When your defenses fall away and your heart opens, you've got it. Love is right where you are, wherever you are in this moment. Love is. Love is available to you right now. Will you be available to love? Can you be? Are you open to receive it? Until today, you may have believed you had to find love. Just for today, hold thoughts and images of love in your mind. When you can be love, move in love, and see love in all things, you are living the truth of your soul. What could be more fulfilling? Today I am devoted to thinking loving thoughts, seeing love in all, and giving love to all. That's from the book Until Today by Iyanla Van Zant. And now is the time I know everyone has been waiting for, as we've been promoting the show, letting them know who my guest is going to be. And as I said, she is on the line with me, and I'm going to introduce her now, share some information with you. And while I'm sharing that information, get on all your social media sites and tell them to tune in to gobrave.org on their computers. Make sure their speakers are on, and they can still do whatever it is that they would like to do in terms of posting on all their different sites while they listen to my guest and I chat for the next 50 now minutes or so that's left in the program. My guest this morning is Dr. Pinky Miller. And believe it or not, she's in the class of 1986. And we're going to talk a little bit about that once we get going, because I can't believe all that time has flown, and it has. But Dr. Orlando Pinky Miller attended public school number 24, Eastside High School, and Montclair State University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Studies and her Master of Arts degree in Counseling and School Guidance. She received her Doctor of Philosophy degree from Georgia State University in 2011. Dr. Pinky Miller, the author of Life After Lean on Me, and the executive producer of the upcoming Know Our Story documentary, Know Our Story, LLC. Dr. Miller has over 18 years of experience working in higher education and has been employed by the following institutions: Montclair State University, New Jersey; Miami University, Ohio; the College of William and Mary, Virginia; St. Peter's College, New Jersey; Clark Atlanta University, Georgia; Georgia State University, Georgia; the University of South Dakota, of course, South Dakota; and Allen University in South Carolina. Dr. Miller has held several positions as a hall director, academic advisor, area coordinator, assistant director of residence life and housing, assistant dean of students, and the vice president of student affairs. Dr. Miller loves working with college students. She thrives on being able to help them in a time of crisis and help guide them toward becoming successful citizens. Dr. Miller is the proud member of the best sorority in the entire universe, and that is none other than Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And she is married to a fellow alumnus, Mr. Darrell L. Miller. They have 5 children together. Dominique graduated from Atlanta Metropolitan College, Georgia. Janae graduated from Georgia State University and presently attending the University of Georgia, pursuing her master's degree in social work. Everyone is currently attending Georgia State University. Darylyn and Orlando are currently attending middle school. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphone. None other than Dr. Pinky Miller. What I didn't tell you is that Dr. Pinky Miller and I are friends, as we were at Eastside High School around that same time. I graduated a few years before her, but I do remember her there. Pinky, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to the Reading Circle.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, you are more than welcome. I'm glad we finally made this happen, because we've been talking about this now for close to a year and a half, probably over 2 years, getting close to 2 years now. So
yes.
I'm glad we made it happen, because I remember when we met when I was down in Georgia, you were at the project. I think you had just finished a book or either was promoting it or getting ready to move into the documentary phase. But I know now everything is up and running, complete. I see the book here. I see the cover. I see you on it. And and the title of her book, folks, is, and this is going to be a fun interview for a few different reasons. One, we know each other personally. 2, we attended the same high school. I understand and know of the experience that she writes about. And her book title is actually Life After Lean on Me, the Dr. Pinky Miller story. And I'm going to share, like I said, we're going to go to our public service announcement and share that with you. But while I'm doing that, I need you to multitask, if there's such a thing. I need you to listen to what the public service announcement is telling you, but I also need you to get on your keyboards and on your telephones and everything else you got to communicate, and tell somebody to tune in right now to gobrave.org and to turn on their speakers, because they are not going to want to miss this inspiring and fun interview with Dr. Pinky Miller.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Yeah. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, bubble on Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap next Sunday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed, you are. You are listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. And as I keep reminding you, we're here each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock a.m. live. And we are indeed here again. And my guest calling all the way from the Peachtree State. I think you're still in Georgia, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Calling all the way from the Peachtree State, also the state of which my mother resides in at this point, is Dr. Pinky Miller. And I'm going to start off this way because if you heard me reading her bio starts in an interesting manner because somebody from outside of the area may or may not can appreciate where she's trying to go. But when she says attended public school number 24, Eastside High School, there's a reason for that because it's connected to what the book is all about. Now, I'm going to say this, Pinky, because many in the listening audience, particularly those who are in this area who know of the city of Paterson and who may be in the Wayne, New Jersey area and some of the surrounding communities, some of them do declare that nothing good could come out of the city of Paterson. And I sit behind this mic and you sit down there in Georgia refuting and denying that very belief, because certainly something good does come out of Paterson, New Jersey. And certainly if they didn't think anything good came out of Paterson, New Jersey, they certainly didn't think anything good came out of Eastside High School. And once again, the two of us are living testimony that, yes, something good did come out of Paterson, New Jersey, and something good did come out of Eastside High School. And I'm saying that as we lead into, because that's pretty much what the story is about. And not only the times of her going through it, but the life after. That's why the book is called Life After Lean on Me. Now, if by any chance those of you who don't understand what we're referring to when we say lean on me over the last 20, 25, 30 years or so, you must have been under a rock. And I say that because it's rare that you, and I don't have cable, but I do know it's rare that you can turn on a cable station at some point and not have come across the movie Lean on Me, the Joe Clark story. And there are many, and because I just missed Joe, because Joe got there after I had graduated. He was there when my sister was there, and then Pinky came along. But I worked there at the time whenever Mr. Clark was there. So I have views and experiences as well, but Pinky was one of the students there. And again, if you've seen the movie Lean on Me, you would just declare that Eastside, I think at that time they were calling it the Blackboard Jungle. I mean, all kinds of names we were getting. And Mr. Clark came in there and did what Mr. Clark does and what he was assigned to do. And as a result of that, a whole generation or graduating classes full of children went on to become whatever they became, and Pinky's one of them. So Pinky, again, welcome. Talk to me a little bit about okay, let me do it this way. Our interview is going to be a little bit different because I want to touch on the writing piece, no question. But talk to me a little bit about what I just said in terms of you have folks that honestly believe that folks who come out of Paterson or particularly Eastside High School are not going to go anywhere. What is it that drove you to be able to now have a doctorate? Go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to thank you, Mark, for giving me the opportunity. It is truly a blessing to be here to share my stories. And first and foremost, I need to let you all know that there are some great people who are doing some phenomenal things who have come out of Paterson Eastside High School. When Eastside, back in 1982, when I was a scared little freshman, I did not want to attend Eastside High School because all of the negativity that was going on. During that time, a teacher had just gotten stabbed, and it was all over the news. And Dr. Frank Napier invited, actually appointed Mr. Clark to come to Paterson Eastside, and that was the day of reckoning. Mr. Clark came into Eastside High School and helped change everything around. The movie Lean on Me is actually about my graduating class because, as I stated before, I was a scared little freshman when Mr. Clark came in as the brand new principal. And so there were many other students like myself who were terrified to go to Eastside, but because of Mr. Clark's leadership, his love, his demanding admonitions that he shared with us, he basically told us that we had two strikes against us. First and foremost, we were poor and we were black. And the fact of the matter is your education is your way out of the ghetto. Your education is your home run. So do not strike out. Get as much education as you possibly can. And I personally took that to heart as receiving the highest degree in education. It wasn't easy because coming from Paterson Eastside, yes, we were inferior academically. But personally and professionally, no. We may have started out low, but Mr. Clark, he poured so much of himself into us, all of the love, the encouragement, the motivation to do our best, and he also chastised us as a father would. There were many of us who grew up without a father in the home. He was a father figure to me. So for me to be able to go to school, because there was no father figure at home, but to go to school where I spent 8 hours a day, he was that father figure that said, Pinky, get over here. Pinky, make sure you're doing your homework. Get away from them boys. Come on, let's get it together. And I am not the only one. I'm not a special case, but I truly, truly, truly believe that I got as far as I did because of Mr. Clark, in spite of all of the other negative things that were going on. But as I stated, I am not a special case. There's so many of us. We have classmates that are working with the first family, with the first family here in the United States, working with Michelle Obama, students named alumni. Greg Scott, he's doing phenomenal things with veterans. We have classmates that are working with the first family in Dubai. We have classmates who are teachers, who are principals, who are lawyers, who are doctors, who are doing phenomenally well. And in my second book, that's also titled Life After Lean on Me, the dissertation research, I have their profiles in there as well. I did my dissertation on Mr. Clark's leadership, the impact that it had on the teachers, the students, and the administrators. So I was blessed enough to be able to interview 23 different people who shared the phenomenon of Mr. Clark. Students, of course, who were there before Mr. Clark got there, as well as during Mr. Clark's tenure and afterwards. I interviewed teachers who were at Eastside High School prior to Mr. Clark, during, and afterwards. And I also was blessed enough to interview Mr. Clark as well. And the amazing thing is that all of the interviewees, all of my participants that were in my study, you either liked Mr. Clark or you didn't. So
that's right.
He was not an easy man to work with if you were a teacher or an administrator who were not on Mr. Clark's gravy train, if you will. If you did not necessarily agree with the way Mr. Clark was handling things, then you had a very different. And I mean, I can attest to, and in my book, a lot of people share their stories, good, bad, and the ugly, about working with Mr. Clark. But at the end of the day, he was about the students. And thank God I was one of them. But he really fought for the students. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
Well, I tell you what, I was listening to you, and it's going to sound weird, but being a principal and sitting in the principal seat, as I was listening to you describe the role that the principal had in your life, I really almost cried sitting here as I was listening to you, Pinky, and I'll tell you why. Because the principalship is a hard position because no one likes the principal per se. I mean, you can't, and I know, and I'm going through a period where it just seems like no matter what you do, you can't make anybody happy. You're not making the parents happy. You're not making the board happy. You're not making the community happy. You're not making the teachers happy. It is a thankless position, but exactly what you just described in terms of children come into that building that may or may not have a father figure in the home, that are looking to that principal or looking to that teacher to act in that role. And I see it. I know, I experience it. I feel it from the kids that I serve. And to hear you say that, first off, that's a testament to Mr. Clark. Now, like you said, there are folks, you love him, hate him, good, bad, or indifferent. I have my good, bad, and ugly stories with him. I know the man personally. I was working there while he was there. I wasn't a teacher at the time. I was actually a custodian. I was working in the custodial staff. And so I've had my experiences with Mr. Clark as well, but just to hear you say the role that he played in your and so many other students' life, I literally was sitting here with the mic off and I almost started crying because that is it. As the principal, that is exactly what we are charged to do, regardless of who likes what we do or don't like we do. At the end of the day, it is about the students.
Right. Exactly. I agree.
So in terms of now, okay, you matriculated through everything. You went on, you followed, you listened to what Mr. Clark was telling you in terms of the inspiration of getting your education and so forth and so on. Where did you write? Did you write whenever you were in high school, whenever you were at Eastside, or was like English or writing your major?
No, actually, I always kept a diary. And it was amazing because, and this is where it gets a little deep, if you will. There were some things that happened to me growing up as a little girl, and school became a safe haven for me. And it actually started when I was actually 5 years old. I was molested by a family member, and I didn't know what to do, didn't know what was happening. And in my kindergarten teacher, actually from PS 24. Her name was Miss Weiler at the time, and she loved on me. When I say when I walked into my little and I remember this, I have an awesome memory, thank God for that. But when I walked into my little kindergarten class, my teacher hugged me, and that made the biggest difference in my life. And when she hugged me every day, because I was being molested in my home by a family member, that was my safe haven. And so she really helped me. But unfortunately, I was then also molested by a security guard at PS 24 during that time.
Wow. Wow.
And so you just never know what's going on in a child's life. And for those of you who are teachers who are listening, parents who are listening, if you have a child and all of a sudden, if you have a child who's happy and they have this great little personality and then all of a sudden something has changed, I would encourage you to please have a talk with your child. Teach your child about good touch and bad touch. Teach your child how to talk and how to tell you and let you know, communicate with you what's going on with them. Because children do not tell. We don't tell for so many reasons, because the perpetrator will lead that child to think that it was their fault.
Right.
They did something wrong. They feel guilty. They think they're going to get in trouble. There's so many nuances to what's going through that child's mind. And so I would just admonish you, teachers, especially, check on your children. Love on your children in a positive way, but teach them between good touch and bad touch so that they will know that when something is bad happening to them, that you are a safe haven, someone that they can go and talk to and be able to communicate and say, this happened to me. And so, it was difficult, but I wrote. I kept my little diary and talked about things that happened to me, and even going when I went to Eastside High School prior to, things unfortunately happened to me, and again, school became a safe haven for me. The statistics are alarming for children who are molested. It's 1 in 3 little girls will be molested in their lifetime, and 1 in 7 boys will be molested, and it's happening now. It's a family member, it's a cousin, it's a sister or brother. It's a teacher. It may even the security guard is supposed to be there to help children. So just please be mindful of that.
I'm sitting here once again listening because you're right. For many, and as I'm sitting here with the mic off and I'm listening to you, and as you're talking, I'm serving about 500 kids in the school that I'm principal of at the moment, and their little faces are popping into my mind as you are speaking, because I know for many of them, they're going through that and then some. And you're right. The school does become the safe haven for them, because we actually have kids that whenever we go on break for whenever we do the Easter week and the Christmas week and all that stuff and summer vacation, some of those kids go through withdrawal because they know they're not going to be coming back to the school for a little bit, and whatever is going on at home, that's what they're going to be suffering with until school takes back in again. But it also is because I'm trying to work with my teacher, because oddly enough, like I said, I have my feelings both ways in terms of Mr. Clark, but I get compared to him a lot. And I know our personalities are nowhere close to each other. But in terms of our standards and what we're pushing for, a lot of people compare me to him. Like, oh, you're like a joker. I do the bullhorn thing. I'm really tough on trying to get teachers to make connections with the students, because many of our teachers really don't know their students. And because of that, it causes a whole bunch of other issues. Right now, my hot button is on these teachers that want to use suspension as classroom management. Like, no, not allowing it. So I feel what you're talking about as you're sharing your story with you. I had no idea, and I've known you for years. And again, you just don't know people, especially their private experiences. And obviously, you're sharing that so you can help somebody else.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is, because I do have two books, and my first book is about my life, and it talks about, the things that I went through, and I shared a little bit with you. It also talks about the fact that, being a fatherless child, and it just goes through relationships that I've had, being married. It just really tells a story that is empowering to know that it doesn't matter, the things that you've had to go through, but you can overcome them, number one. As long as you keep Christ in your life and you keep God first, He will cover you and keep you covered.
That's right.
And so it's been an amazing journey. The other thing that I would really, really stress out, and if you can stress this to your teachers or if there's any educators who are listening in, as I stated before, Miss Weiler, who was my kindergarten teacher, she was the best teacher ever. And if I was only 5 and 6 years old, when it was time for me to graduate from kindergarten to go to first grade, Miss Weiler told me that she loved me so much that she was going to go to first grade with me. Do you know how that made me feel as a little girl?
I know.
She could have been just being transferred, or she had to move to the first grade. But the way that she told me that she was going to first grade with me because she loved me, that meant so much to me.
And Pinky, while you're there, and those in the listening audience, if you listen on a continuous basis, you've heard me share the story before. In the summer last year, I was watching the news because my teachable moment antennas never go down. I was watching the news, and they shared this story about two guys in New Orleans who was going around the city of New Orleans, and they were hanging on telephone poles just the word love. And they had it was a white background, and the words were in red letters, just love. Nobody knew what it was all about, folks. And what they were doing, I don't know if they were doing a dissertation or an experiment or what they were doing, a social experiment, but they wanted to see if just by posting the word love in strategic areas would cut down on the violence and crime rate in the city of New Orleans. Now, I don't know the result of what it found for them, but I took their idea and I came back and I got my technical person and I said, look, I want 300 of these signs laminated and printed. And Pinky, I went around my school building myself and I hung the word love strategically in that building on door. Well, right. And again, that's a message I'm trying to help my teachers understand. If our children, they may or may not be the most academically astute, but they know sincerity. And they know when they're appreciated and they know when they're loved. And if just what you described, you know what? I felt that teacher love me. And you're going all the way back to kindergarten and first grade, and you still remember that.
And not only that, when I talk about relationships that you can have with your students, Miss Weiler, who now is married, her last name is Volpe now, she lives in California. Do you not understand that I still have a relationship with this woman?
I do, because my second grade teacher was at my 50th birthday party. I still talk to Miss Royster to this day.
Right, and she actually helped me because she read my dissertation. And so we're still in communication. And so you just never know whose lives you're going to touch, and prayerfully you will touch them in a positive way. And kids also know when you are, for lack of a better word, faking the funk with them.
That's right.
Not sincere. They know when, and children listen, and they are very observant, and they watch your actions. So if what's coming out of your mouth isn't being shown in your actions, then there's a disconnect. And children pick up on that really quick. Now, I'm not saying these little, some of these little kids can be little hellions. I get that.
Yep.
But most times, you have to look a little deeper. Why is that child acting out? What is going on in the home that child is really acting out? And they sometimes just really need a hug and need someone to listen to them. At the end of the day, that's all we all need, right?
It is true, and I'm going to share some information with you, but I'm telling, and I mean this, folks, if you are listening, if you don't text anybody but one person, and I know it's early in the morning, but if they're up, and I know folks are up because I see them posting on Twitter and everything, because I'm on my Hootsuite right now, and I've been posting on there as Pinky's been talking, but folks need to hear this, and if you know somebody that's a teacher that's up, text them and tell them to tune in, because the stuff we're talking about is what's making the difference in these children's lives. I'm with the academics. I'm with standardized testing to a degree. I don't necessarily agree with how we test. I understand the accountability thing. But at the end of the day, these children will succeed if the place that they're coming to for those 6 to 8 hours is a safe haven and a place that's showing them love they may or may not be getting at home. I am convinced of that, and this interview and talking with Pinky this morning is confirmation for me, because that's why maybe I'm sitting here like emotional and about to cry, because I'm sitting here like, okay, am I too hard on my staff? Am I saying some things I shouldn't be saying? And this conversation is confirmation that no, I probably need to be a little bit harder. But anyway, I'm going to share this information with you. Let somebody know that the Reading Circle is on the air. Dr. Pinky Miller is with me. We're talking about life after Lean On Me, and what I'm really hearing from this is how Joe Clark really wound up kind of being like the lightning rod in terms of the inspiration for Pinky to go where she went. But she's also talking about a kindergarten teacher. So all along the way, there's been someone in the educational path that has been inspiring Pinky. And she went on, as she said, to obtain the highest degree that you can obtain in education, which is a doctorate. So I'm going to share this with you, and we'll be right back in about 60 seconds or so. Don't you dare move unless you're getting closer to your speakers.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
They thought they could stop me. They thought they could hold me down. But boy, did they think wrong. Cause I'm here. And now that I'm here, I'ma keep giving y'all the illest mix you've ever heard. From executive producer Diamonds comes the illest show on radio. Starring multi-award winner Diamonds. Every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Brave New Radio. Club Melting Pot. Only on WP 88.7 FM.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed you are, and I am excited because my guest is talking down my street. And I'm not excited just because she's talking about down my street. I'm excited because what she's speaking is the truth. Even in our most challenging schools, if our educators would make the connections, and I mean true connections, and make the effort to understand what these children are going. And I'm not saying we're going to use that as an excuse or as a crutch, because I'm very clear with the teachers that I serve. I'm not trying to make an excuse for what the little hellion is doing. But what I am trying to get you to do is get a better appreciation and do understand, if you were in that same boat, you might do the same thing too. And see, many of our educators, because they're filtering through a whole different process of how they were raised or grew up or where they were raised or what have you, it's very hard to make that connection of a child that had to walk through a murder, or a child that had to walk through crackheads on their way to school, or a child that was not fed that morning, or a child that didn't sleep that night. 3 weeks ago, I had a 5th grader whose mother was gunned down. In my entire school career, I did not go to school with a classmate who lost their mother to that kind of violence. Now, I may have been with kids that their mother died of cancer or their mother's, but I had never been with no child that had to deal with the fact that their mother was gunned down. And I knew the woman myself. I had just met with her the week prior. Wow. And so, I mean, we're dealing with some serious, major issues here that every time the child cries out, I got to receive a write-up in my office. And it's funny we're talking about Joe Clark, because I had to quote him the other day. I remember Mr. Clark saying, now look, I'm going to give you 3. The first 2, I might say, is the child, maybe. But the third one is you. In other words, I need to understand what your classroom management technique is.
Right.
And so I had to say that the other day, like, you know what, there's too many write-ups coming from you. Something's going on in this classroom, and it's not just the kids.
Right.
So just listening to you has been like confirmation for me, affirmation and confirmation. So talk to me a little about when you did your dissertation on Joe Clark. How did you come to that decision?
Well, working on a dissertation and going through your Bachelor of Studies is not the easiest thing ever. Let me just say that. I truly believe that it is a form of legal hazing, if you will. Number one, I mean, coming from being educated in the Paterson school system, I was not academically ready. I was not. I mean, at the end of the day, I studied. I did well in high school, but when I got to Montclair State University, I had to take a remedial class.
I can relate.
I was like, what is going on? Wait a minute.
Right.
At the end of the day, what was amazing was that every time I encountered any type of struggle, especially in education, I could always hear Mr. Clark's voice in my ear all the time. And he said, he's like, Tinky, you can do this. You don't stress about it. Just keep going. And you keep going, you keep moving forward, and you keep moving, and you keep trying and striving, and you'll get there. Just keep going. Don't stop. And so attending Montclair State University was amazing because, again, I was connected with people who connected with me and had a relationship with them. I then became a resident assistant. And for those of you who know what a resident assistant is, it's someone, a college student, undergraduate, who helps assist residents who live on campus. And so I became the confidant, the counselor, the mother, the father, the sister to my fellow classmates, my fellow, college students. And so I did that for 3 years and then went on to at Montclair State to go on to get my master's in counseling. Because what I found is that as I was, being a peer counselor to my fellow classmates, I realized that, these students are going through a lot. Like, what is going on? And as well as myself. So not only was I helping them, I was also helping myself listen to their problems and helping them through, through their stuff. So I was a very good listener. So I said, if I can do this, with my classmates, my undergraduate classmates, let me learn how to do it correctly. And so I went on to go get my master's in counseling and school guidance, which was phenomenal and a phenomenal experience. And then as an undergraduate working in student affairs, from being a resident assistant, I went on to become a hall director. So now instead of just being in charge of, 30 students living on my floor, I was now a hall director where I was in charge of 320 women, if you will, at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. Another awesome experience. And so me being African-American and coming from Paterson, New Jersey, I am now at Miami University, which is a predominantly white institution that has nothing basically but salutatorians and valedictorians, and I am now the academic advisor and the hall director for 320 women. It was an amazing experience because here it is, I was the first African-American female administrator that was, working at that level. So that was an amazing journey. And then going from Miami University to the College of William & Mary, again, another phenomenal experience.
Right.
And now from working with 320 students, I'm now in charge of almost 2,000 students as an area coordinator. So it's just been an amazing journey, and I just always work with students and helping them to be better citizens of this world. And the amazing thing is when you work in student affairs on the college level, although you have the academic, there are two sides to the university. You have the academic side, and then you have the student affairs side.
That's right.
The teachers and professors are dealing with the students, academically, but when they leave that classroom, they come to live, to the residence hall, and we're dealing with all of their other stuff other than academics. So we are dealing with their, professional or their development, their student development, dealing with their, their problems that they're having outside of the classroom, relationships. You have students who are in crisis. I've dealt with students who were suicidal, students who have eating disorders, students who are dealing with domestic violence, students that were dealing with racial issues. There was just so much going on, helping them to become the best that they could be within those 4 years of being there. So it's been an amazing journey, and I love it, love it, love it, love it. So, yeah.
And see, again, and all of that, because this is what I tell teachers all the time. We never know the children that we're serving, our role with them, who we're going to inspire to be what? 10, 15, 20 years, and now some of the same kids that we're serving is going to be the Dr. Pinky Miller that are going to be telling stories about, I remember I had this teacher at Napier Academy. I remember I had this principal at Napier Academy or wherever I might be. We're serving that right now, and we don't even know. We don't know the next Barack Obama that's in our midst.
Exactly.
And see, that's what excites me with education in terms of serving the students. So now you did your dissertation on Joe Clark. Did you, at that point, is that whenever you had the opportunity to interview him, or was that since then, or because you were interviewing the students and him as a part of the dissertation?
Right, and so I'm sorry, I digressed. But yes, at Georgia State University, going through the doctoral studies there, at the end, my dissertation chair, because I was actually going to do something else. And when I started at Georgia State University, we had to do different research projects, and I found myself doing something that I was passionate about, which was my experiences at Eastside High School and everything that we were going through during that whole 4 years. And so I started actually doing my research back in 2004. And when it became time for me to do my dissertation, I was going to do it on another subject. My dissertation chair said, you need to do your dissertation on something that you're passionate about, because this is going to be your life for the next 3 to 4 years. So you need to do something that you're passionate about. And so I said, I'm going to do my dissertation on my experiences at Eastside High School. And so during that time, between 2004 and 2011, I was able to interview my classmates, interview teachers and administrators, as well as Mr. Clark. And so the real meat of it, as far as the dissertation was concerned, really happened in 2009 and 2010. So during those times, interviewing them and then having to, because one 45-minute interview took 6 to 8 hours to transcribe.
Right.
I had to do all of that work by myself. And so I ended up with over 400 pages, 300 to 400 pages of just transcriptions of the words and the things that they said, and I had to break everything down and code everything. It was an amazing journey. And yes, I interviewed Mr. Clark, and that was phenomenal, because when I called him, it was amazing. The first time I heard his voice on the phone, I just busted out crying because I felt like I was 13 years. I heard, back it's 13 years old again, and hearing his voice in my ear. And now he's like, "What's the matter?" I was like, "Nothing, just hold on, give me a minute." It was just amazing. And so, yes, interviewing him was phenomenal. And then after I interviewed him the first time, I then had to go back and interview him again to fill in the gap after I coded the interview. It was amazing. It was just an amazing journey.
I'm sure it was, because like I said, I was there. I lived Joe Clark. And you're right in terms of when he arrived there in 82, because my sister was class of 83. So she was his first graduating class, but you were his first full class of 4 years.
Right.
And, he was, no, quite. And it's funny, because someone came to me the other day. We had an issue here at one of the schools where a student assaulted a principal. I'm sorry, not a principal, but a teacher. And somehow, I guess whenever the news reporters are doing their thing, they pull up, all the different views. And someone told me that Joe Clark was interviewed, and he said they should have never done away with corporal punishment. I said, what that sounds like, Joe. That sounds like.
I talked to Mr. Clark a couple of months ago, and I actually listened to. He just did an interview on Wednesday with his daughter Joetta.
Right.
And they were talking about education. Mr. Clark is still as feisty as he was.
Yes.
He is still alive. He is actually living in Gainesville, Florida. He has a horse farm, but he is still as feisty as he was before. And if you read my book, you will get to hear him and see him live and in living color, because he is just as feisty as he was back then.
I'm sure.
Yes, he is live and living color. He is amazing.
But
during one of our conversations, actually I said, "Mr. Clark, you're not done. Like, who told you were done?" He's like, "Pinky, I've done my time. I've done everything I needed to do." I'm like, "No, Mr. Clark, this is our time to now give you your flowers, because you have instilled so much in over 4,000 students at Eastside High School, and it's now, you have literally basically passed the bullhorn, if you will, to your students. And so now it's our turn, since you allowed us to lean on you. Now it's our turn to allow others to lean on us, so that we can now empower and motivate and encourage those students to do what, or people in general, to do what they need to do."
That's right.
Yeah, so, we've had many conversations.
If you've just joined us, and I hope you've been with us since 6 o'clock, because it has been a spirited interview as I expected to be. My guest is Dr. Pinky Miller, and the title of the book is Life After Lean on Me, the Dr. Pinky Miller story. And what's coming through loud and clear is that one person can make a difference. And the person that we're referring to in this particular instance was the principal at that time, Principal Joe Clark. If, like I said, you would have to be somewhere under a rock if you've never heard of the story of Lean on Me or the movie of Lean on Me. Many things were spawned for that. Even in the movie, many of the extras, a lot of the actors and actresses in the movie were kids and personnel at Eastside High School at the time. I know many of the children who appeared in the movie, some of the cast that was there. And even some of them have gone on to do. I remember the group Shy. If you remember in the movie, there's some boys that were singing in the movie. They went on to have a professional singing career for a time. It was just a lot of things going on. And again, as we said, good, bad, or indifferent. An impact was made. And in Pinky's case, an impact to the point of where she went on to get a doctorate degree, just based on the love and the support from her various teachers and the principal, the one key principal, because she had many different principals along the way as her various schools. But the one principal that stood out for her was Joe Clark, and to the point where she wrote her dissertation on that for her doctorate, and now a book. Now, also in the bio, we were talking about an upcoming documentary. How's that going?
It's going. We're still in the developmental stages, because we're striving to figure out, okay, we want to talk about education, but there's and education reform, and just striving to figure out what the real message, what the message needs to be. So we're in the developmental stages of that, so it's still ongoing. But just to give you some information in reference to the real students, I actually have 2 books out, and the second book is the dissertation research is titled Life After Lean on Me as well. And in that book, I have profiles of at least 52 students on what they were doing during Eastside High School and what they're doing now. Profiles of their pictures of them in high school and profiles of pictures of them now. And actually the group that sang in the bathroom, that sang our awesome alma mater, was Riff, actually. That was the name of the group.
Right, and they started out as Shy. Whenever they first started, they were SHAI, because they were working with Skip Van Rensselaer. And then they went to Riff, or either vice versa, one or the other. And from that, Donnell Van Rensselaer, If I Ever Fall in Love with You, Dave Van Rensselaer, came from that. They were the boys there, the Kelly Boy and a couple of others.
Right, but that's actually two different groups.
Oh, they're two different groups. So you had two groups. So you had Shy and Riff.
Right, they're members of both groups. But Riff is another group, and Shy is another group. But yes, they were all singing in the bathroom. But they're two different groups. Shy, as you know, went on to sing and do some phenomenal things. And Riff, they're actually in the process of coming out with an album as well. So you have two different groups that came out of that one group that were singing the boys singing in the bathroom. So yeah.
But yeah, a lot of offshoots, a lot of success that came from that whole time, from the notoriety, from the attention that was being put there. Because again, it was quite a time media-wise there.
There's so many different things, and in my book I also share the real Lean On Me story, because there's so many things that happened in the movie that they didn't talk about.
Right.
And so, like, a lot of people don't know that, Paterson Eastside gets absolutely nothing from the $31.9 million that Lean On Me grossed back in 1989. People don't know that Mr. Clark sold his rights to the movie and gets absolutely nothing. People don't know about the race riots that were going on in Paterson, New Jersey. People don't know about the high rate of pregnancies that were going on, so much that they had to build a pregnancy school for girls. They don't know about all the, there was just so much that was going on. And the other thing is that Mr. Clark did not do all of this by himself.
Correct.
I also highlight three unsung heroes, such as Mr. Al Moody, Pastor Michael McDuffie, and the awesome best band director in the world, Peter Nelson.
Oh, I know all three of them well. I know all three of them extremely well, and you're absolutely right.
So they are the three unsung heroes who really helped Mr. Clark, help us. And so in my book, I have two books out, and they can be found at my website. So if you go to my website, which is no-our-story.com, I'll send you an autographed copy. You can get your copy of the book. They're also found on Amazon, Books A Million, and Barnes & Noble as well. So please, just come out, and support. I would truly appreciate it.
I tell you what, just mentioning them three names, you took me back. Woo, my goodness. And I work with all three of them still to this day. But yes, Al, Pete, and the third. Who was the third one?
Mike McDuffie.
McDuffie. Yeah, well, I see Mike all the time. Reverend McDuffie, I see him all the time. I mean, the three of them, like I said, wow, you took me back. But no question in terms of the Marching 100. And now that's something that's sad to me, because a lot of our children are not interested in things such as the band. Because at the time we were at Eastside High School, I mean, if nothing else, we were known for the Marching 100. And when I say 100, it was 100 plus. I mean, and at this point, they struggle to get like 25 to 50, but it was 100 plus children who was interested in music and dance and performing. So she's right. In terms of Al Moody's program, even though he's retired, is still up and running. Folks reference him to this day. I'm going to take my child to the Al Moody program. And Reverend McDuffie, he's still doing his Mighty Sons and Warriors of God, and he has his church going. But you're right, there was a lot of unsung heroes that played their parts. Joe got the spotlight and everything. He did have some help. He was the leader of it. But still, like anything else, there were others involved. And wow, when you said those names, you took me back. When Pete Nelson.
Yep, and I also talk about Dr. Frank Napier as well in the book.
Yeah, that's right. That's who my school's named after. The school that I'm serving as principal now is named after Dr. Napier, because he was principal there for years, and he was our first African-American superintendent.
Exactly. And so, and I was actually the first female snare drummer, if I will, in the band. The baddest band in the land.
That's right.
I had fun. We had lots of fun. But it's been an amazing journey, and I thank God for all of it, because I wouldn't be who I am today without it. But I would just really just admonish and just talk to and would help carefully get the message out to these teachers and administrators that you must have a connection with these students.
No question.
They're not going to give you a hard time, because they will, but you still have to love on them in a positive way and know that you're touching their lives, and they will remember you. Just like I, can now remember, 25, 26 years later, my teachers who poured something into me. And I truly thank them for that. And you will have students who will come back to you and say thank you, and you might not know exactly what you did, but just giving them a hug.
That's right.
Would mean make a world of difference for them.
No, you're right. I can name my teachers all the way up from Miss Bono to Miss DeMario to Miss Royster, Mr. Zurich, Mr. Booth, Miss Harrison, Miss Campbell, Mr. Wright. On through 8th grade, I had Pullis and Shulman and Murphy. And then when I got in high school, it's real funny because a lot of the teachers, even some of them that I had, are still in the district. And now we're colleagues. And for some of them, I have the hardest time calling them by their first name because they were teachers of mine.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I am so proud of you because, again, our class, and first of all, like I said at the top of the interview, I can't believe that many years have gone by. So we're talking here, next year you'll be celebrating your 30th anniversary, your 30th reunion.
Yes, and we're actually starting to plan it. Yep.
Yeah, because I've blown past my 30th. Probably this will be my 35th. This year is my 35th. And, I can't believe that much time has gone by.
Yeah.
That quickly. But I looked over, you said class of 1986. Seems like it was close, but that's almost 30 years ago.
Yep, and this is actually the 26th year of the premiere of Luna Me.
That's correct. And
26 years this month. So, yeah.
So, any book signings coming up? Are you going to come up to this area at all, or what's going on? Let folks know where you're going to be.
Actually, I have a book signing. I was in New Jersey this past summer. But I will come. If someone invites me, I will come. I do book signings.
I hear you.
To pay for the airline, I will come. And no problem. I also do book clubs. I have a couple of those coming up where they had to meet the author. And so I have a couple of those coming up. And so I'm actually just in the process of moving my books along and doing some motivational speaking and just striving to be a blessing to those who need it. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, as always, folks need role models. And years ago, because I'm not a big Charles Barkley fan, but every now and again he'll say something I may agree with, because most of the time what he says I don't agree with. And there's one statement he made that I definitely don't agree with, and that's when he came out and said he is not a role model. And I said, no. Whether you want to be a role model or not is one thing, but the fact of the matter is the fact that you're in the public eye and people see you and what you do makes you now a role model. Now, there is such a thing as a good role model and a bad role model, but we are role models nonetheless. And the fact that you, again, matriculated through the various schools in the Paterson school system, and because we're still maligned. Paterson is still maligned for whatever reason. Some of it might be factual, some of it is not, but we're still maligned. And then when you start talking about an Eastside High School that took on the reputation of being one of the worst schools in the country and so forth and so on, that some of that stigma is still there. So the fact that you came through that and have become a success, that serves and makes you a role model. And so young ladies and young men can look up to you and what I do is once I have folks, I may go in there and blow up your book cover and make it a poster and in the school, and I'll tell you why, because I will point to that to the students and say, you see that young lady right there? If she can make it, you can make it.
Exactly.
If she's coming through the same, because that's the one kind of hook I kind of have with parents and students is whenever I start saying, look, I grew up here just like these kids growing up. I went to school 15. I went to Martin Luther King. I went to Eastside High School, William Patterson, Fairleigh Dickinson, and William Patterson again. So what I'm saying is if I can do that, there's not a reason. And actually, that's what drives me to be in the business that I am and to stay there. If it can happen for me, it can happen to every one of the children that I serve. So I may just take your picture there that you have there, the Dr. Pinky Miller story, and I might blow that up into a poster and start displaying and again, using it for the kids. And then one day may invite you up and they see you in person. They'll really lose your mind. They'll lose their minds. That's the lady on the poster.
I would love to come. I would love to come. Speaker, that'd be great.
So, yeah, we may have to definitely look in there, particularly if you're ever coming up to visit, if you're in the area, if you let me know that you're in the area. Matter of fact, if you let me know that you're here, I will make it happen. I mean, I will just stop classes for that day and do an assembly program if you let me know you happen to be in the area. And if not, maybe we can see if we can try to make something happen, because I know budgets are like crazy, but you never know. But truly, I need as many people in front of our kids because one day I want them to be able to go out and say, you know what, it was this lady that came to speak to us. And you have a name that they can remember, Pinky. I mean, they'll remember Pinky. It was this lady, her name was Pinky, and she spoke to us. You just never know. That's my point. We just never know. Just like at the time, I guarantee you, Joe Clark did not know a book was going to come out from a former student that is now pinpointing him as the lightning rod.
Yep, and you know what? The amazing thing is when I asked him about that, he said, Pinky, and I was asking him about him selling his rights to the movies. He said, I wasn't doing anything special. He just thought, because he came from school 6, he, same type of leadership.
That's right.
That was autocratic. That's who he was. But he didn't think he was doing anything special.
That's right.
But he was. And I said, but Mr. Clark, do you not understand how many lives you have changed? And he was like, no, I didn't think I was doing anything special.
And I can relate to that because, again, sitting in the principal seat, you know what drives you, because I just told you what drives me. If it can happen for me, it can happen for any other children I serve. And you really don't think you're doing anything special. But it becomes special to the audience that you serve because of everything that you described of what may or may not be going on at home or what experiences they have had. Now, whatever you show to them does become special.
Yes, because Mr. Clark, he would give you money out of his pocket. If you didn't have it, or you
right.
he would give. If you needed a haircut, there was one of the teachers who shared that there was a student who would get, they would bully her in a sense and talk about her because she always came to school with clothes that were wrinkled.
Right.
Because they could not afford an iron. They went out and just bought her an iron.
That's right.
It's things like that. And, it may not mean anything to anyone else, but do you know what that meant to that child?
That's right.
That child could now iron her clothes.
That's right.
You just never know the smallest thing that you might do for someone. And I think that was the key for me, for Mr. Clark. It's like, you just truly don't understand the fact that you could say, Pinky, get over here. Or,
that's right.
In his alma mater, or, he would support me as I was Miss Paterson 1986.
Right.
But you know what? I was in the pageant for 2 years prior to that. 84, 85, I didn't win until 86. He supported me every year.
Right.
That meant a lot to me.
And again, like I said, when I was there, I was a custodian. So some of the moves I was watching, it seemed a little odd to me because I remember when he came in, he would only do parent meetings between 6 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock. And then I think he had some afternoon hours. And I was like, wow, there's some certain things I didn't understand. But after I got in the principal seat and I saw the dynamics of it, I started relating more and more to some of the moves he was making.
Right.
Because I served under another administrator that had his style. It was a female. And again, while I was serving under her as vice principal, some of the moves I didn't quite understand. But after I got in the principal seat, I said, I can see how they got that way. I had I could see how Joe Clark got to the way he got to based on what we deal with. And I could see how the other administrator that I served with got to how she is based on everything that you deal with from the various stakeholders in terms of the parent body, the student body, the Board of Education, central office, and now in New Jersey with Paterson, since we've been taken over by the state, NJDOE, now that's another stakeholder. So I could see how administrators got to where they got to, and at the end of the day, what you really are trying to do is impact that student.
Right.
So you have to now impact that student while keeping all those other stakeholders happy. And it's a tough job. It is. I am not going to try to tell anybody, but it is a rewarding job because all I would need is one student like you to come back to me whenever I'm in my 70s and 80s.
Exactly. And you know what? He used so many different strategies to reach us as students because especially coming from Paterson and having to walk through crack vials and having to, you know, all the other craziness that was going on in the city of Paterson during that time and now, and the gang violence and things like that were happening. He used so many different strategies because, like, for instance, there was a lot of graffiti that was going on at Eastside. You know, students tagging and with spray paint. What did he do? He got all of those students together that were tagging and doing the graffiti. He got them all together and said, look, let's do something positive with your talent.
Right.
Instead of defacing it, let's do some really nice murals that will, you know, encourage us and the Mighty Ghost. And that school was beautiful. They did beautiful murals.
Right.
And that kept them off the street because they did it after school. It was amazing. It was, you know, he just used so many different strategies to help us along the way.
I know, and I tell you, you're right. And again, I'm going to tell you in the principal seat, one of the laments that I hear from most of the stakeholders is you ain't doing nothing. and I say that because regardless of what you do, you still have folks that think you're not doing enough. And I'm sure Mr. Clark felt that same way in many instances. In spite of everything that you've been sharing with us that he was doing, you still had folks say he ain't doing nothing. And
yes, and one of the other strategies he used, too, you had 4,000 students in one high school.
Right.
A lot of the fights that would happen in the hallway.
Right.
Because there was major chaos in the hallway. What did Mr. Clark do? He said, walk to the right.
Move to the right expeditiously. Move to the right. Move to the right. That's right.
That was a key strategy that calmed down a lot of the fighting that was going on. Right. You know, I still walk to the right when I walk down. You know, but that was one of his strategies that he used.
That's right.
You know, he would use things. The other thing, when you were talking about the fact that he would have his office hours between 6 in the morning, basically till 6 at night, he would tell us, you know what, you have no excuse. You can always come and talk to your principal.
That's right.
That office was open. We could go talk to him about whatever we were going through. We can go tell on the teacher. We could go do whatever we wanted to do because we thought that Mr. Clark had our back.
That's right.
That was very important to us. He used so many strategies. You know, he had the Virgin Club, you know, for all the young girls that wanted to, you know, keep their virginity versus, you know, those that were doing other things that maybe they should have been doing. And then the one major thing that was really a strategy was an awesome strategy is he had that bullhorn.
Right.
That bullhorn made him like he was omnipresent.
That's right.
So, you know, you may not see him, but you can
hear the voice.
He walked those halls. He was never in his office. He was always around. So Mr. Clark, if we were cutting up in the cafeteria, where's Mr. Clark? He could get over here. I was like, oh.
That's right.
He was always there. And he would ask you, what's the problem? How you doing? Did you do your work? Did you do that? He cared about us. And then the other thing, he knew us by our name.
That's correct.
He would call you by your nickname or whatever you wanted to be called as long as you were doing your work.
That's
correct. So to have someone do that, you know, that was amazing. You know, and they, you know, people say they wish there was more Clarks around now, which would be great, but you would be sued right now. So, you know, it's difficult.
That's absolutely right.
You can't, you know, there's certain ways you have to talk to students right now, but, you know, hey, if I could get through high school and, you know, and there's some other students who were in, you know, they had different street gangs and the 5%ers and all different kinds of, you know, things that were going on.
Right.
Classmates who were involved in those things, that they are doing phenomenally well.
That's right.
Because of Mr. Clark at the end of the day.
I know that's right. Well, I told you the hour. Actually, we went over the hour, and I told you that time was going to fly, and it has. So we are down to the end, and I always give the authors the opportunity to promote one last time. You can say anything other than the price. And I also know you have a site that you can donate to. And again, you could say anything about the site other than give a dollar amount. But this is your time to promote your websites, the books, the cause in terms of the documentary. You got the mic for the next couple of minutes, and then we'll close out.
Well, thank you. Again, listeners, I encourage you to visit my website, which is KNOW -OUR-story.com. Please visit the website. You will be able to click on a button it'll give you the brief synopsis of each book, because I have 2 books out. One is titled Life After Lean on Me, a Dr. Pinky Miller story, as well as Life After Lean on Me, the dissertation research, what happened to the real students after the Lean on Me story. I'm also in the process of raising funds to be able to give back to Eastside High School, because, as I stated earlier, the movie Warner Brothers, who produced the movie back in 1989, they grossed over $31 million, and they do not give back to Eastside High School or to Paterson, New Jersey, or to the Paterson Board of Education, and they are in dire need of some assistance. The students there need help. With the awesome principal, Mrs. Atiti Moody, who is also a student of Mr. Clark.
That's correct.
During his last year in 1989, and Mrs. Atiti Moody is now the principal, one of the principals at Eastside High School.
That's correct.
So if you could please visit the website. I also have profiles of my classmates, and it's awesome. So if you really want to learn about the real Lean on Me story, please visit www.know-our-story.com. Or I can be reached at 404-713-3895. I also do motivational speaking as well as book clubs. I can do commencement speaking, keynote addresses. Please check me out. Give me a call. Send me an email, which is drpinkeymiller@gmail.com.
All right. Well, that wraps up an extended version of the Reading Circle. The last few weeks, my guests have been so good that we've just been blowing on by the 7 o'clock hour on into the second hour, and I'm all right with that. And I thank God I have the flexibility here within my 3-hour window to kind of manage them the way I see fit based on how things are going. And it seemed like all of my interviews this year in 2015 so far have gotten to the point where we've gone over the hour because they've been that intriguing, that interesting, that exciting. And I really do. Like, I'll come in this studio like dead tired at 5:30 in the morning. And by the time I talk to my guests, I am so pumped up. Like right now, just talking to you, I am so excited and motivated and re-energized because, like I said, you confirmed and affirmed a lot of things for me just listening to you talk. And so I am excited. I wish you nothing but the best on all of your projects, and certainly I'll be in touch with you again. And if you're still in Georgia, when I go down to visit my mom again, we'll connect again, because I always make sure, because I'm a major Martin Luther King groupie fan, whatever you want to call it. So every time I go see my mom in Louisville, I make my way down to Atlanta to go to the King Center. So if I do that again, I'll catch up with you again, and we'll see if we can make some things happen.
Sounds great. Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, God bless you and your family. And again, I'll be watching out and checking out for what's going on with Life After Lean on Me.
Thank you.
All right. Take care and have a wonderfully blessed day and week.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Well, as always, wow. Another powerful interview. If I don't get anything out of this, because money, I can tell you right now, money I don't get, because this is a volunteer gig and I love it. I've been volunteering doing this for now close to 14 years and absolutely love it. Now, that's how you know that it's a passion, as you heard Pinky say, is when you'll do something that you're not being paid for, because I'm not being paid for this. This is a passion. This is a love. This is something that I just love. Matter of fact, I'm waiting for that one big interview that gets me out there, that some major network is going to say, you know what, I think we can pull him up into the major leagues. It's like, you know, whenever you get spotted or you get a highlight or somebody's, you know, they've come across you and now you were discovered, if you will. It's kind of like, okay, you're in the minor leagues. We're getting ready to pull you into the majors. I'm waiting for that one big interview that takes me into the major leagues. But this is my pattern. Even if I don't get to the major leagues per se, and I'm using that as an analogy or as a metaphor, even if I don't get to the major leagues, this is something I love to do. And part of it is because I get to talk to such great people on the air on Saturday mornings as they share their story, as they share their books. And I already knew Pinky from when Pinky was a kid at Eastside. She was class of 86. I was class of 80. So Pinky was going to school there as a student when I was working there as a custodian. And I knew Pinky then. And she has gone on to become Dr. Pinky Miller. So there is no telling what you can do if you stay focused, if you keep yourself on the grind, if you have your faith backing you up, if you have your beliefs, and if you have that person as she had with Joe Clark and her teachers and the other folks that she named, Reverend Michael McDuffie, Al Moody, and Pete Nelson, and so many others. But that's what it's all about. And if somehow I can get that message to sink within my staff members in my school building, there is no height that our building, Napier Academy, will not be able to reach. But exactly what Pinky was talking about is where not just Napier Academy, but every teacher who teaches, I don't care where you teach, the things that Pinky was talking about in this interview is what has to happen if you're going to have academically successful students. Because if you have students who are dealing with domestic violence, molestation, drug addiction, alcoholism, it is difficult to get them to learn 1 + 2 = 3 whenever they're dealing with their mother just got gunned down last night. Now, I don't care what nobody say. You can throw as many standardized tests at the children as you want. Until you can deal with some of those other issues that those kids are dealing with, they're always going to score low. All right, with that being said, let me move on because I can spend the whole next 2 hours just talking about that.
WPSC-FM 88.7, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Paterson Broadcast Network, Brave New Radio.
Brave New Radio. Give us your tired, your poor, your hungry, your rockers, your punks, your freaks, your geeks, your Greeks, your party animals, your gangsters, your commuters, your residents, your students, your alums, your lawyers, your truckers, your calls, your tweets. And we'll give you rock, classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes, and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio. Sound good?
Straight from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center, here's your local forecast.
Moved up a little bit. We're at 22.8 degrees, and it feels like 23. Expect cloudy skies, high near 35. We're going to move to a low of 28 tonight. It's going to be overcast. And then tomorrow, Sunday, cloudy, early with showers for the afternoon. We have a 50% chance of precipitation tomorrow during the day, moving to an 80% chance during the evening. Periods of mixed winter precipitation. We're going to move to a low of 26. And then on Monday, a mix of wintry precipitation in the morning, then periods of snow expected in the afternoon, high of 31. Expect 1 to 3 inches during the day. And then Monday night, snow showers early, becoming scattered later. 60% chance during the evening on Monday. Tuesday, partly cloudy skies, high near 35. 20% chance of precipitation. Tuesday night, clear skies, low of 14. And then for Wednesday, sunshine and some clouds, high of 34. Cloudy, low of 23 on Wednesday night. That rounds out the forecast right here from WP 88.7 FM. And it's, you know, anytime I'm dealing with an educator, I'm always excited anyway. I got a lot of energy anyway, but I get super excited whenever I'm dealing with an educator, particularly one who really gets it. And Pinky gets it. All right. I know yesterday, because in my school, I mean, there's just certain pockets of behaviors that we're cracking down on. And one of them that I've been cracking down on recently is this whole behavior in the cafeteria. Because what brought that to mind is a few weeks ago in one of our neighboring communities, a child actually was killed in the cafeteria. It was accidental, but the child was playing around in the cafeteria, and one of the cafeteria tables actually came off the wall, and he happened to be in the area where the table came loose, was struck by it, and it ultimately killed him. And what came to my mind was, you know what, I can see some of the behaviors of the children in my cafeteria at the school that they may not get killed, but they could get seriously hurt. The way they run around, the way they chase each other, some of the things that they're doing in the cafeteria in and of itself. Sometimes they get busy and try to start food fights and just all kinds of little, rather than just getting their food, sitting down, talking with each other, taking their food to the trash. So I said, okay, we're going to put some strategies in place here to try to head some of this stuff off, because I will not have a child that's going to be killed under my watch, particularly in the cafeteria. So I came up with a plan that I'd used some years ago, which is, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. We've asked you to sit down. We've asked you to stop running around. So we know your names. As you heard Pinky say, we know our names. We know our kids' names. Okay, fine. We're just going to write that name down on a piece of paper. And when that name gets submitted to the main office, I'm not going to give you an out-of-school suspension, not as we know it. We have a thing called a no parent, no show. We also call it a 0-day suspension, which means you cannot come back, the child cannot come back to the building until a parent comes with them. So we've put that strategy in place that if your name gets sent down for behavior in the cafeteria, your parent gonna have to come with you the next day. And that seems to be taken effect because, see, this is what happened with the parents. Parents have to go to work. Parents don't want to be aggravated and annoyed to have to keep coming to the building, especially for little stupid, little silly stuff. So we've been getting like 9, 10, 15, 12 names or what have you. And I've been going on our automated voicemail system, letting the parents know your child can't come back to this building until you come with them. And I'll hold a general meeting for those parents and those students at 9 o'clock in the morning. And what's beginning to happen is, and I told the parents, if your child does it again today, you're going to get called again today. If I need to aggravate you because they're not listening to us, I have to bring the folks in who they ought to be listening to. Now, they ought to be listening to us in school too, but clearly I can't do, as you heard Pinky say, and as you heard me reference Joe Clark earlier, said they never should have done away with corporal punishment. We can't do corporal punishment. We can't touch them. We can't discipline them in a way that parents can. So if I need to keep calling you in here until that behavior is corrected, then doggone it, that's what I'm going to do. And the upshot of the story is I'm beginning to see the behavior in my cafeteria change. So that's why when I say I can appreciate some of these strategies, I didn't agree with everything Joe Clark did. I didn't. I was there. There were some things I just totally did not agree with. And even as an administrator, I probably would not do. But I have an appreciation for why he could do what he did based on the situations that we're confronted with. So like I said earlier, in terms of him, because when I would get like, wow, 6 o'clock in the morning, I understand. Parents expect to just walk in a school and you to drop everything you have to see them. No other business runs that way. Your doctor doesn't run that way. Your lawyer doesn't run that way. For the most part, not even your hair salon or your nail salons. Even though they take walk-ins, you still have to wait until it's your turn. But for some reason in schools, parents and folks think that just because they've arrived that you're supposed to drop everything that you're doing and service them. So I got a real good appreciation for why Joe Clark said, now look, my meeting time with you is between 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. because Joe would be there from 6 to 6. That I can attest to. He was there from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in each evening. That was every day. He did a 12-hour day or more every day. That I can attest to. So he let parents know, I'm willing to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll meet with you between 6 and 8, and I'll meet with you in the evenings between 4 and 6. I got a real good appreciation for that after I became an administrator, and parents actually thought just because they walked through the doors that everything was supposed to stop. So you have to put parameters in place as an administrator. And there are certain strategies, as you heard Pinky say, that we have to do. So going back to my story with the cafeteria, that has been working. I had parents, the school ends at 3 o'clock. I have parents that show up every day picking their child up at 2 o'clock, 2:10, 2:30, 2:50, 2:40, 2:15. Had to put a stop to that. Had to put big signs on the door. Early pickup will not be allowed. Put the school policy on the door as well as a letter that was written to them about that issue. That's cut that out. I mean, it's sad that we have to do things like that, but unfortunately we do. There has to be some policies and guidelines. And in those areas, that's where Joe Clark was very good on. I mean, I give him that. I didn't particularly care for how, in my view, he handled staff members. But in terms of backing the kids, no doubt, no question. That I've seen. Pinky was right. A child could run to him and say, Mr. or Miss such and such did this. He would go to that teacher, no questions asked, and ream them out publicly. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't agree with that, because that I wouldn't do. But I saw that. That I've seen. I mean, would get into that teacher's, but didn't even ask, did it happen? Just the fact that the child went to him and said it happened, he would now go to that teacher and, in many cases, make the teacher look like a fool in front of the class. And that I didn't agree with. Like I said, there's certain things I just did not agree with, and that's one of them. But there was a lot of things he did I did agree with. And now that I sit in the principal's seat, I can get a real good appreciation for why he did what he did. All right, we are in the M&M Hour. We're going to go ahead with the good news and song, but I had such a good time talking with Dr. Miller this morning. I'm so proud of her. I don't know what to do. That she's gone on to receive her doctorate. Little girl I used to see playing around Eastside High School when she was there is now Dr. Miller. I know that's right. So, all right, share some information.